It's now my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Wai-yin Hatton. She's travelled down from Scotland, Chief Executive of Ayrshire, NHS Ayrshire and Arran, and also strong management background. She was the first chair of the Institute of Healthcare Management in Scotland, and I think has obviously knows quite a lot of people and quite a lot about the NHS in England. So we hope that we'll be doing some cross-border lesson learning about leadership from Wai-yin. So I'm very pleased to welcome Wai-yin to talk about nurturing our future leaders. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope you're all still awake and can hear me very well. This is the graveyard slot after a very energizing kind of a streamed workshop. So I'll do my best to keep you awake because there's no such thing as a free lunch. Luckily, I've had my free lunch already, but please don't fall asleep on me because I might not get my free ticket back to Scotland. Having heard all the presentations this morning, one thing that did jump out for me, and I'm totally intrigued, and this might be because I'm from up, north of the border, is I hear and see so much from journals, from the news, and so many great things are happening down south. Not? Yes. Thank you. Somebody said yes, somebody else not. So I don't understand why, and I don't think I'm stupid either, why I'm getting the feeling that people feel so bashed down all the time, and that as if there's very few successes. And when we heard about the Commission's report and different speakers saying, these are the best practice, these are the things we should be doing, it's as if these things are not happening. So I'm totally intrigued. So in terms of my presentation, therefore, because I'm not an expert in all this leadership development, I'm just one of those who happen to lead and do my best leading and try and nurture people. I shall challenge a few little assumptions that I've picked up this morning and through the afternoon. I also want to just maybe use myself as a mirror back to you, and maybe you can then perhaps reflect on why those perceptions, strange perceptions I've picked up are there, and perhaps just share with you some of the things that I do in my patch in terms of nurturing future leaders. So in terms of nurturing future leaders, I think there's a club, and I come from Scotland. Any Scottish people here? Well, one thing I learned about Scots, having been up there 15 years now, and I'm the longest serving chief executive in Scotland, okay? In the same place. I don't know if that's sad or not. But Scots are incredibly brilliant in terms of acronyms. So having lived up there for so long, a bit naturalized now, I could not resist using acronyms. So I'm going to talk about the club approach to nurturing future leaders. And basically, I believe those of you who are here, you won't be here if you don't believe in leadership. Is that correct? So therefore, we are a bit of a virtue club, aren't we? Yeah? We are into this quest. We believe in it. We want to do well. We want to get others doing well. So I'm just going to share with you my concept of the club approach and invite people who are not already in. Maybe we can do a bit of the, what do you call it, like not these chain letter pyramid selling to get more people to join this club where we absolutely believe this is a fantastic thing to do. We're doing a great job and we'll continue to spread the good news. So the first one I'm going to attack in terms of the C in club is culture. We talked a bit about culture. A couple of our speakers referred to, if we don't have the right culture, how can we get people to go on programs, they do great things, go back, and then they revert back to type because the environment isn't there. Well, am I correct? Even though I'm north of the border, those of you who hold budgets, more than at least 60% of your budget is on staff. Is that correct? Yes. So therefore, it is really a no-brainer that if they are our most valuable assets, we should be developing and nurturing them anyway. Yeah? Now, so on that one, a bit of interaction to make you, please don't fall asleep on me. Please, please, please. I need that ticket back to Scotland tomorrow. It's just a little straw poll. I won't go into technology because I had enough difficulty putting something on my slide this morning. Audience here. In the last 12 months, how many of you have had an opportunity to nurture, develop yourself in terms of leadership development? Oh dear, some hands are not up. Okay, in the same 12 months-ish, how many of you have actually developed, nurtured other people in leadership in the wisest sense? Okay, so the first myth to dispel is this thing about us not being good leaders, being nurtured, developed, gone, right? So, Chris, can I go home now, please? Have I? Okay, so that's the first thing I just want to put on the table. We are doing it, and if it were not for your efforts and other people's efforts, frankly, I don't know where the results, outcomes that you've achieved have come from. Thank you for nodding. Agree with me. So I hope it's reflected back to you that, you know, it's you who's doing it. There's nobody else hidden in the cupboard producing the results. Second thing about culture, safer patient north or south of a border, doesn't matter. We all are really into the patient safety environment, are we not? Because that is the core of our business. I'm a patient, so I really want you to do me no harm, make me better, and be nice to me. And it doesn't matter how we each different systems spell those things out. We are all glued onto those same aspirations anyway. And in terms of leadership, we are doing a lot on developing clinical leadership to drive that safer patient culture and environment in a very same way. So to me, there's no difference to us trying to put on the same kind of leadership focus on other areas in a wider sense, because if we don't, for example, have good, strong leadership, how will we create the kind of environment we talked about earlier to encourage people to be more creative when actually the majority of our workforce are clinicians, highly regulated, do me no harm, don't do anything wrong, do it right first time every time, don't take the wrong leg off Wai-yin. You know, we have all those things. So we do need to make sure we continue the leadership development, be they in the clinical arena or in the management arena. So to me, that's another no-brainer. And to me, we need to learn perhaps from the safer patient type environment. It's not about training, it's about development. And we need to be very clear that two are not synonymous, they are quite different. And we really need to go down both routes to get the kind of quality outcomes for the patients that we serve. Some of you might know Jason Leach from Scotland, one of our real leading lights in terms of driving the Safer Patient program in Scotland. And at a conference in 2009, he actually brought out what I've put up there is humanity can be seen to be removed a little bit from the NHS. And what we do and the approach and the culture, there's a bit of empathy there, that it can dehumanize the people we serve, the staff, the service. Ring a bell? How are you feeling today? You know, getting a little bashed, you know, get your knee capped a little bit. However, as leaders and the culture, who creates those culture? It doesn't just come in from somewhere, you know, from another planet. We are part of that culture. So it's for us, therefore, that in spite of highly target-driven environment, very much transactional, not particularly transformational and emotional intelligence, that's something we picked up from the session I was in, but it's within our gift to turn those things around. We are the people who can put the heart back into the organization. Simple thing like saying thank you. We all know these very simple things. I hear it, you say it to people. Every time we use those simple words, we are actually reinforcing the heart back into the organization. And somebody said to me recently, well, but you know, when staff are rude, they say they don't have time to be nice to patients. Well, you know what my answer was? The length of time you've taken to be rude to a patient, you could have been nice to them. Yes? The glare they give, they could have given a smile instead. So frankly, there is absolutely no excuse. The final area just to share with you, in terms of my own health board, we went through quite an interesting experience, very different but alien. But certainly, and some of you will appreciate we have a very different system, no trust. So mental health is within my remit. And my associate nurse director, Derek Barron, I have to flag up his name because he's a real gem, but don't poach him yet, please. He introduced me to the essential shared qualities in terms of how to develop charge nurses and clinicians within the mental health sector. And when I understood what they were trying to do, I said, why don't we get our own health board to be a recipient of the same training? Because when you look at the values of the capabilities, they very much are about developing the right values, whether they're for the patients we served of a staff with respect, with dignity. So therefore, for me, the culture should start very much at the top of an organization. The board doesn't talk about this all the time, but it's highly visible. It's really an attempt to say, yes, we want to move into that direction. So let's do something very tangible as a board to learn to work quite differently so we can begin to lead by example. So let's move to the leader's role. I love cats. Any cat lovers here? When people say to me, Wai-yin, what is your job? I say very simply, it's creating an environment to succeed. And that's what gets me up out of bed on a Monday morning, having a very nice weekend, to go into work when you've got that stack of email, all these nasty stuff. But there's a really exciting bit of the work that is about creating an environment to succeed, isn't it? And can I ask you, if I say, name me a great thing, a good thing that happened in your organization last week. Yes? One? Hands up, one? Two? Three? You mean you're so sad, aren't you? Do you not see the great things happening in your organization? You really don't. I'm sorry. I think you need a bit of counseling session for this lot, right? So let me just continue in terms of success. The leader's role in terms of nurturing our future leaders. Today, in a year's time, you know what's happening? The torch is coming. Yes? We're going to start the torch, the Olympic torch. And I think it's really important as a landmark for me. So let's think about that torch. And in terms of nurturing our future leaders, to get to world class, which is the word NHS uses all the time, regularly, it doesn't happen overnight. And I would like to draw some analogy from the sports world because I'm very active still, although a bit, knees not very good, back not very good. But if you look at that sporting world, to get up to the world-class arena, it's by design, not by accident. So if we really want a world-class NHS, we collectively, the corporate we, have to really be very clear how we go about doing it. And one of the things I want to draw from parallel, if you look at the diagram, we have the biggest, the widest foundation, which is the grassroots. In sports, if you don't find your talents and develop them by the time they're 14, they do not have the optimal opportunity to develop the motor neuron actions in order to be world class. Now, there are some late developers, but that is broadly the issue. Great, we have a number of NHS trainees here. Can you please put your hand up if you're still here? Mm-hmm. Fantastic new generation. Some of them I think I've met before, speaking to you at the London Bridge Hotel, or Tower Bridge. But in terms of starting them, we've got to catch them, just like sports, early years. And this is, I don't mean necessarily young, we're not ageist here, right? But in terms of the level within the organization, we really, I don't think we can leave till their middle management, senior management, director level. We really need to catch them extremely early. And when I was preparing for this talk, I bumped into one of our senior nurses, and she said, Wai-yin, I still remember several years ago, because of a program that enabled her, when she was a more junior management in the nursing hierarchy, to access a Reach for the Stars training. This is where she is today. So let us make sure we do not forget the people really at the more early years within the organization. Talent spotting, how many of us do talent spotting? Sometimes we're reluctant to do it because it could feel like, oh, you're picking out certain talents. And I agree, the danger is some people late develop, and I'm probably one of them, you do not spot them till later. But we want to actively spot them and develop them. But there's also a personal drive, but I'll talk about that later. In terms of responsibility, the local organizations, we are the local systems, just like the local clubs. That's where we really have to drive, create greater opportunities for much more systematic development. And of course, when we come to the corporate NHS, just like the national governing bodies in sports, we need to do something absolutely specific, like your top leaders program. So there are different levels before we get there, but it cannot happen by accident. So really, can I now applaud all those people here who within your different levels, you are doing tremendous work in developing the future leaders.
5 minutes.
And coaching leadership, we all know in terms of winning teams, we really need to develop coaching leadership. So in terms of what we do as leaders, under the L, we really need to make sure on a daily basis to look at the holistic approach, not just about picking the right people, but in terms of how we deploy them so that we actually give them the environment to succeed rather than setting them up to fail. So taking a very holistic approach to this. Somebody said to me, being kept at the knees, a bit negative in the environment. Well, let's turn to positive psychology, where we actually look to not just the weakness in our team. Let's look at what strengths they can bring. I've just recently volunteered to sponsor an award for our Institute of Healthcare Management in Scotland, and that is to have a box seat award or equivalent. He or she who has made the biggest blunder but have the greatest learning experience, let us celebrate that particular component. So let's celebrate not from negligence, but people who have tried. So in terms of creating an environment for dealing with risk, being creative, let's actively promote that and see it as a strength, not as a weakness. And you, I just want to ask you, what do you want, really, really want? You know, Spice Girl stuff, I know it's a bit old now. But to be great leaders, shows my age a bit, doesn't it? But at the end of the day, it's the individual role. What do you want if you want to become the best leader in the world? Andy Murray, fantastic. But a lot of work goes into him, a lot of personal drive into that personal quest to become a world leader as a leader. And in terms of dealing with uncertainty, we mentioned this earlier, we all get a bit sidetracked by uncertainty. However, there are two things that are absolutely constant throughout my God knows how many years in NHS. You know what they are? Improving health, improving quality of care. They are absolutely constant. But if you have, anybody flown on BA recently? Have you read the article, Business Life or whatever it's called? Article in there this month, the 3 Gs. It's not just about skills that is required in the new world, because we don't know what the new world necessarily looks like, but we do need to have a mindset of being global, which means we need to be open to new ideas, new experiences, new connections, need to be good, the integrity, which is the bedrock, to pursue our activities to benefit those around us, and grit, which is what we absolutely need in terms of the challenging times ahead. And emotional intelligence as well. Anybody not in this frame of mind sometimes? But if we do not nurture our staff when they go through stress, we really will have dysfunctional staff, safer patients. So absolutely, we must look out for each other and have mechanisms in place to support staff, particularly in changes. And in terms of resilience, let me tell you two ways to deal with resilience. I just need 2 more minutes.
No, that's fine, yeah. You've got 2 more minutes.
Right. And basically, my director of ONHRD flagged it up to challenge a lot of our staff. How are we dealing with resilience? And some of you were saying, oh dear, bad press. Let me share with you. I have a couple of great ways to share with you. I don't read the newspaper at all or listen to the radio or TV if I know there's something bad about my organization, particularly when it's not true. You remove that stressor. Why do you subject yourself to very biased type publicity? Okay, simple, isn't it? No brainer. Okay. The other thing is frustration. Anybody have frustrations here? You turn it into fascination. Once it's turned into fascination, how wonderful. I think, wow, this awful situation, well, I can write it up as a case study. I could sell it to INSEAD, I could sell it to Kingsford, I can run my own master class. Turn into fascination. Lastly, the B is about world class. Confucius say, if you want to rule the world, you have to start with yourself. If you develop yourself, the organization then take over the world. So it is a ripple effect in terms of nurturing. Bess, my husband said to me, why is that 4x4 in there? Is that my Christmas present? I said, no. Toyota, economic downturn, their strategy is whatever they do to reduce production line, their budget for training and development absolutely protected so that they can have the best team for recovery and take over the market. Do we not want to do that? So in terms of free ways, and I can take that in the question time, I have lots of free ways to deliver training development without any cost to the organization. So let's turn this endangered species, one speaker said, potential endangered species, for goodness sake, you're not endangered at all. You will be the most sought after commodity when you really take it seriously in terms of nurturing future leaders. Forget this endangered species. It's like a glass ceiling you impose yourself. confidence in yourself, you can sell anything. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is a quote, another Chinese quote, courtesy of Alf Hatton and Associates. And you can see, as for the best leaders, people do not notice their existence. We're a bit invisible. You lot, don't even know the good work you're doing. Denial. Next best, people honor and praise. The next, people fear. But when the best leaders' work is done, the people say, we did it ourselves. We do not need to rely on other people to entirely give us the nurturing. We can do it ourselves, and we can get other people into the club. The more that energy is, the more it grows, and the more we and you give recognition to the fantastic work you are doing. So don't go into denial mode, please. And I just want to share this with you. Thank you very much for listening to me. It's going to be a fantastic, fascinating, not challenging times ahead. But if we all glue together and we help each other along, we have stumbling blocks on the way, but if we really work together and join together, we will get there as world class, the way we deserve to be recognized, because what we're doing is truly great stuff. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to me. I'm a great believer in nurturing leaders and want to applaud you.